Great Australian Migration Massacre is what we can expect if Peter Dutton gains power on the 3rd of May.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Many temporary residents are anxious about their future. We see this in the comment section of the channel all the time. 491 and 494 visa holders are worried about their access to the 191 PR pathway. 482 visa holders worry if they will still have a pathway through the 186 PR visa. Those on the 485 visa waiting for invitations under the 189, 190 and 491 visas are concerned about their chances for invitations that never seem to come. On day one, if he's elected, Peter Dutton has vowed to introduce the mysterious Lower Immigration and More Homes for Australia bill. No details about this bill have yet to be released, but Dutton doesn't care about giving details, for he is trying to grab votes from people who don't care about the details. He wants the votes of people who are just happy knowing only two things: reducing the permanent migration program by 25% and reducing the net overseas migration figure by a further 100,000 less than the current government's plan. Tonight I'm going to try and predict how these numbers could be made possible. We have split the video into two parts. Firstly, on his cuts to the planning levels by 25%, and then next week we will cover the net overseas migration numbers. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, and hell, I don't even like what I'm going to say. But somebody has to put it into perspective of what these cuts will do and the consequences. Otherwise, the migration program is heading for a cliff with Peter Dutton flat on the accelerator, and we don't know what awaits us when we crash to the bottom. And does he even care about what people or businesses think of him orchestrating this massacre? In true Trumpian style, it seems that he doesn't.
Big business backlash to that 160,000 number. Are you worried about that?
I'm not worried about that. I've got the first and foremost interest in mind, and that is to get young Australians into housing.
Now let's talk about the permanent migration numbers being slashed from 185,000 to 140,000 and how that target could possibly be achieved. The first thing he wanted to do, in true US of A Doge style, is sack 41,000 public servants, but then he backed away from that. But to disrupt the migration processing and slow it all down to reduce the number of people who get here, he just needs to move staff out of the immigration department into other areas. If this happens, we will go back to the 1 million plus backlog of visa processing in no time. Something he created before, so he knows that playbook well. This will most certainly slow down the NOM because fewer visas to be given out will reduce the number of people to get here. It will also impact upon the PR visas granted, but he won't care about those waiting in Australia for their visas, as they can just wait and they can just keep working and wait. Those who are waiting offshore for their PR will just be seen as collateral damage, except those occupations in demand where a ministerial order can just put them at the top of the queue anyway. Slashing the PR program to 140,000 from the current 185,000 will be his prime directive. For this financial year, the planning levels have been set, and those targets probably already have been reached by May anyway. For those not aware of the current levels, this table provided by the Immigration Department will help you see how it's all laid out. However, there are signs that he does not even understand the purpose of making such a cut. Watching the footage from this week's First Leaders debate, we don't think he does. Have a listen to this.
And what will you do to ensure migration discussions remain respectful and avoid demonising migrants?
So we have to have a managed migration program, and our argument is that you can reduce it from the record level that it's at the moment down by 25% for 2 years, which will create about 100,000 homes, and that will help young Australians get into housing.
You can reduce down from the record level that it's at the moment down by 25% for 2 years and will create about 100,000 homes. Really? How will cutting migration by 25% create 100,000 homes? I mean, if they are full now, as we are told, how is cutting the planning levels going to create an extra 100,000 more? And if we cut skilled workers, isn't that going to hinder the ability to catch up and create enough houses as well? But I don't think he cares if that sentence doesn't make sense. The public will simply latch on to the parts they want to hear, reducing migration by 25% and creating 100,000 homes. If the purpose of slashing the migration program is all about the housing crisis, as he makes out, then the family migration program of 52,500 should not be touched. And why is that, you ask? This is because the family program requires an Australian citizen or a settled Australian permanent resident to sponsor, and they already have a place to live and are ready to look after their relatives. For example, there is no strain on the housing market when a spouse is coming to live with their partner, or a dependent relative to live with their family, or a child to live with their parents. In the vast majority of cases, they will be coming to live in an established residency in Australia anyway. Dutton cannot afford to touch these numbers without a severe backlash. So this leaves the skilled migration program, currently 132,200 of them. How many of those are going to end up being trimmed? Well, the 491 and 494 visa people have already been counted in the planning levels when their visa was first granted, because their visas are provisional PR visas. There is no chance their pathway to PR via the 191 visa will be touched, because they do not come into planning levels anymore. Those who are on their way to the 191 pathways should not be worried about their futures. Those who have already lodged their skilled visas, the 190, 491, 189, 186, etc., are already in the pipeline, and eventually they will be processed. Those who have priority under Ministerial Direction 105 will get through first, of course, while everyone else will just have to hold their breath longer for processing times. The employer-sponsored skill program is unlikely to be touched, however. There has been so much data lately about migrants coming to Australia, and many of them don't end up working in their occupations they were chosen for. In fact, Engineers Australia released a report this week which concluded about half of migrant engineers, 47% of them, were not working in their engineering sector. The report cites, "Many engineers born overseas continue to be employed in industries where their skills are not being utilised, and over-indexation of qualified engineers in non-engineering professions suggests suboptimal employment outcomes for this cohort. For other occupational groups, the overall figures are not great either. And what is the one way to solve that issue? Well, choose people who are already working in Australia in their occupations. And there is no better way to do that than through the Skills in Demand 482 visa and the 186 ENS program, or state-sponsored programs which require applicants to be working in their occupations. We feel the 189 Skilled Independent, the 190 visa in the State Territory category, and the Global Talent category is going to be where the major areas of quotas will be cut. There are 53,900 places between them. Taking places from the Regional 491 visa would be problematic due to the regions that rely on this program. Exactly how these cuts will end up, well, we will just have to wait and see. We must keep in mind, though, that such drastic cuts to the skilled migration program will have flow-on consequences for years to come in relation to skills shortages. But I'm not sure Peter Dutton cares about that. I think at the moment he is just interested in gaining power first. How the NOM cuts will be made is a very different matter, and we shall examine this in the next week's Easter edition. At the moment, the government is in the caretaker mode, so there will be no law changes before the election. Still, more policy details may emerge from both parties, and we will cover this as they happen. As always, if you need help, we are always here. You can book a consultation online, but if you're in a hurry, you can just pick up that phone. To all of you, have a great Easter Friday, and I will see you next Saturday. Take care out there and have a great time.